$751. That is roughly the maximum monthly old age security payment for 2026 if you're between 65 and 74. And right now, thousands of Canadian seniors are receiving less than that, or nothing at all from a second program sitting right next to it, simply because nobody ever sat them down and explained how the pieces fit together. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what CPP, OAS, and GIS actually pay in 2026. You will know the income line where OAS starts getting clawed back, and you will know the one mistake that quietly costs some seniors thousands of dollars a year. Let's get into it. My name is Alex Carter. I spent my career as a financial advisor here in Canada, and for the last several years of that career, almost every client sitting across from me was within a few years of retirement, trying to make sense of the same three letters over and over again: CPP, OAS, GIS. Nobody explains these programs to you in one place in plain language, so people end up guessing, and guessing with your retirement income is an expensive habit. Let's start with CPP, the Canada Pension Plan. This is money you contributed to during your working years, taken off your paycheck automatically. It is not a handout. It is money you already earned. In 2026, if you start collecting CPP at age 65, the maximum monthly payment is $1,507. But here is what most people miss. That maximum only goes to someone who contributed the top amount for close to 40 years. The average new CPP recipient starting at 65 this year actually receives closer to $925 a month. If your number lands somewhere between those two figures, that is completely normal. Your CPP is based entirely on your own contribution history, not a flat number everyone gets. Now, timing matters more than most people realize. You can start CPP as early as age 60, but every month you take it before 65 reduces your payment permanently by 0.6%. Take it at exactly 60 and you're looking at a 36% cut for life. On this year's maximum, that drops you from just over $1,500 down to around $965 a month. On the other hand, if you can afford to wait past 65, your payment grows by 0.7% for every month you delay up to age 70. Wait the full 5 years, and that same maximum payment grows to over $2,100 a month, guaranteed for life and adjusted for inflation every year after that. There is no single right answer here. It depends on your health, your other savings, and how long you expect to need this income. But knowing the math changes the conversation from a guess to an actual decision. One more thing worth knowing about CPP before we move on. If you live or worked in Quebec, your equivalent program is called QPP, the Quebec Pension Plan, run separately from CPP but coordinated with it, so if you worked in both Quebec and another province during your career, both periods still count toward your total benefit. The numbers are very close to CPP's, and the same early versus late decision applies there too. Let me introduce you to someone. I will call her Margaret, 67, from Winnipeg. She spent 38 years working for her local school board, first as an educational assistant, later in the front office. When she turned 65, she took her CPP immediately without asking a single question about deferring, mostly because a coworker told her to grab it while she could. 2 years later, sitting down with an advisor for an unrelated reason, she realized that waiting even 3 more years would have added several $100s a month to her income for the rest of her life. Margaret's story is not a tragedy. She is doing fine, but it is a reminder that the timing decision is worth 10 minutes of thought before you make it, not 10 minutes of regret after. And here is a detail almost nobody mentions. You do not have to decide this alone or from memory. Your MyService Canada account shows you a personalized estimate of what your CPP would look like at 60, at 65, and at 70 based on your actual contribution record, not a generic average. 10 minutes on that website can save you years of wondering whether you made the right call. Now let's talk about OAS, Old Age Security. This one works completely differently from CPP. You do not need to have worked or contributed a single dollar to receive it. OAS is based mainly on how many years you lived in Canada after turning 18. For 2026, the maximum monthly OAS payment for someone aged 65 to 74 is around $752. Once you turn 75, the government automatically increases that by 10%, bringing the maximum to roughly $827 a month. You do not need to apply for that bump. It happens on its own. Here is a retention hook worth pausing on. Many seniors believe OAS is a fixed amount everyone simply gets. It is not entirely fixed because of something called the OAS clawback, officially the OAS recovery tax. If your net income for the year climbs above a certain threshold, the government starts reducing your OAS by 15 cents for every dollar above that line. For the current payment period, that threshold sits at $93,454 of net income based on your prior year's tax return. For income earned in 2026 itself, which will affect payments starting next July, that threshold rises to $95,323. This is not something most seniors watching this video need to worry about, since it only applies well above the average retirement income. But if you have significant RRIF withdrawals, rental income, or investment income stacked on top of CPP and OAS, this is exactly the kind of number your accountant or a fee-only advisor should be helping you plan around every single year. RRIF, by the way, stands for Registered Retirement Income Fund. It is what your RRSP, your Registered Retirement Savings Plan, converts into once you start drawing income from it, and those withdrawals count as income for both tax purposes and the OAS clawback calculation. So the account you draw from and how much you take out each year genuinely affects how much OAS you keep. This brings us to the third piece, and for many seniors, it is the most important one. GIS, the Guaranteed Income Supplement. This is a separate tax-free monthly payment added on top of OAS for seniors with lower income. And here's the mistake I want you to hear clearly, because I watched it happen over and over in my career. Many seniors assume that because they receive CPP, they automatically make too much to qualify for GIS. That assumption alone costs people real money every single month. GIS looks at your total income, yes, but the cutoff is higher than most people guess. For the current quarter, the maximum GIS payment for a single senior is $1,123 a month, and it phases out gradually as your income rises. Roughly $1 of GIS for every $24 of annual income above the base amount. For couples where both spouses receive OAS, each partner can receive up to $676 a month. Combined with OAS, a single senior with little other income could be looking at close to $1,800 a month in these two payments alone. Let me tell you about Raymond, 68, from a small town outside Kingston, Ontario. He spent 35 years in a manufacturing plant, retired with a modest CPP payment, a small RRSP he had already drawn down, and a paid-off house. For 3 years after retiring, he never applied for GIS because, in his mind, a man who worked his whole life did not qualify for what he assumed was a low-income program for people who never worked. When his daughter finally encouraged him to check his eligibility through his My Service Canada account, the online portal where you can view your benefit information and apply for programs, he discovered he qualified for a partial GIS payment every month. It was not a fortune, but it was real money arriving every month that he had simply never claimed for 3 years because he made the decision in his own head instead of checking the actual numbers. And here is something else Raymond learned the hard way. GIS is not a one-time application you set and forget. Your payment is recalculated every year based on your most recent tax return, so if you do not file your taxes on time, even with little or no income to report, your GIS can pause automatically until your return is processed. Filing your taxes every single year, even when you think you owe nothing, is one of the simplest things you can do to protect this benefit. That is the pattern I want you to walk away with today. CPP is what you earned through your working years, and the timing of when you started is a real decision worth 10 minutes of thought. OAS is available to nearly every senior who has lived in Canada long enough, with the clawback only affecting higher income households, and GIS exists specifically to help lower and modest income seniors, even many who already receive CPP, and it is never automatic. You have to apply. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Do not assume you know your number. The CRA, the Federal Tax Agency, and Service Canada, the department that manages CPP, OAS, and GIS, will not call you to say the rules changed in your favor or that you missed a payment you were owed. The only way to know for certain is to log into your My Service Canada account or call Service Canada directly and ask them to review your specific situation. I want to be clear about something before we finish. I am not selling you anything today, and nobody legitimate will ever ask for your social insurance number or banking details over an unexpected phone call in exchange for starting a benefit. If that happens, hang up and call Service Canada back using a number you find yourself. If this video helped you understand your own retirement income a little more clearly, hit subscribe, because next week I am walking through exactly how pension income splitting between spouses can lower your household tax bill and help you stay under that OAS clawback threshold, one of the most underused strategies I saw in my entire career. You have worked for decades to earn these benefits. My job is simply to make sure you actually receive every dollar of them. One last thing before you go. If your spouse or common law partner is between 60 and 64 and you receive GIS, they may qualify for a related benefit called the allowance, which exists specifically to support couples in that gap before the younger spouse reaches 65. It is easy to overlook because it only applies to that narrow age window, but for the right household, it is one more piece of income sitting there unclaimed.